All right, welcome back, crime fighters, for another edition of Calhoun County's Most Wanted, the program where you get to help make Calhoun County a better and safer place by helping us lock up some bad guys. I'm Chris Wright, along with Lindy Meter from the Sheriff's Office. Our Chief Deputy, good to see you.
Good to see you.
All right, so have we done well this week?
Well, we've had a lot of vehicles getting broke into this past few days, so we've had a numerous amount just throughout the county.
Yeah, I was looking at the report on that. Quite a few vehicles that were broken into, but it seems like, I believe, all of them were cases where the vehicles were actually unlocked. Is that right?
Right, and this is typical MO of people breaking into vehicles. What they do is just normally go through subdivisions or go through driveways at residences and just check in for unlocked doors, and then because they're not breaking out the windows or anything like that, and so if the vehicle is unlocked, then they'll go through the vehicle looking for any type of valuables. And
of course, we all would prefer that we don't have to lock our vehicles, and
exactly.
Nobody's required to lock their vehicle, and we're working towards trying to get the people off the street that are doing that.
Right.
So you know, if you don't lock your vehicle, you don't end up paying for it. But the fact of the matter is that simple act of locking your vehicle in many cases will protect you from this particular crime.
Right, and like you said, you know, you're at your home, you feel like you shouldn't have to lock your vehicles at your house, but this is a deterrent, and that will help prevent becoming a victim.
Mm-hmm. So, anyway, all right, let's talk about the arrests for this week. We got 3 more this week, and that brings our total to 4,580 since we started the show 16 or so years ago.
I was here.
So was I. I look a little bit different from then, but you look the same.
Well, thank you. I don't think so, but thank you.
All right. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have the first half of this week's lineup on Calhoun County's Most Wanted.
Many hotels, coffee shops, airports, and other places offer free Wi-Fi hotspots. They're convenient. Unfortunately, they often aren't secure. That could make it easy for someone else to access your online accounts or steal your personal information. So, what can you do to reduce your risk? Encryption is the key to keeping your information secure online. When information is encrypted, it's scrambled into a code so others can't get it. How can you be sure your information is encrypted? 2 ways. 1. Use a secure network to access the internet. Don't assume that a public Wi-Fi network uses encryption. In fact, most don't. You can only be sure that a network uses effective encryption if it asks you to provide a WPA or WPA2 password. If you aren't sure, it's best to assume the network is not secure. The second way to protect your information is to send it through a secure website. A secure site will encrypt your information, even if the network doesn't. If the web address starts with HTTPS, then your information is encrypted before it's sent. The S stands for secure. Look for HTTPS on every page you visit, not just when you log in. If you use an unsecured Wi-Fi network to log into an unencrypted website, strangers using that network can hijack your account and steal your private documents, contacts, family photos, even your username and password. If that happens, an imposter could use your email or social networking account to pretend to be you and scam people you care about. Or a hacker could use your password from one website to try to log into a different account and access your personal or financial information. Here are some steps you can take to protect yourself when you use a public Wi-Fi hotspot. Only log in or enter personal information on secure sites that use encryption. Again, look for a web address that begins with HTTPS. Don't use the same username and password for different sites. It could give someone who gains access to one of your accounts access to many of your accounts. Never email financial information, including credit card, social security, and checking account numbers, even if the network and website are secure. Don't stay permanently signed in to accounts. When you've finished using a site, log out. The bottom line, secure Wi-Fi hotspots require a password. Secure websites start with HTTPS. Remember, it's easy to find trusted information about computer security. Just visit onguardonline.gov, the federal government site to help you be safe, secure, and responsible online.
All right, here we go with the first half of this week's lineup on Calhoun County's Most Wanted. If you recognize someone and have information where we can find them, please contact Calhoun County Crime Stoppers at 256-238-1414. Michael Edwards of Anniston is wanted on a probation violation for breaking and entering a vehicle. Wayne Poole of Piedmont wanted on bond revocation for possession of a controlled substance, possession of marijuana, and use and possession of drug paraphernalia, as well as a failure to appear warrant for possession of marijuana and use and possession of drug paraphernalia. Antonio Pope of Lincoln is wanted on a probation violation for possession of a controlled substance. Carrie Mitchell of Gadsden wanted on a probation violation for theft of property, first degree. Patrick McMurray of Piedmont wanted on a probation violation for possession of a controlled substance. Morgan Thacker of Center wanted on a probation violation for possession of a controlled substance. Richard Bonner of Auburn is wanted on a failure to appear warrant for possession of a controlled substance. If you have information about any of these individuals, please call Calhoun County Crime Stoppers at 256-238-1414. All right, we'll have the second half of this week's lineup coming up in just a little bit, but right now we want to welcome our guest for this week's show. Nanette Moodium is the Executive Director of the St. Michael's Health Clinic in Anniston.
Yes.
Good to see you, Nanette. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, so the health clinic there, you really serve a population that desperately needs your services.
Yes, that's correct. We serve the low-income uninsured residents of Calhoun County, of which we know statistically there's about 16,000 low-income uninsured residents of this county. So,
let's take a second to define the low income, just for the purposes of people that are watching, if they're wondering, do I qualify for this?
yeah, technically it's 200% of the poverty level, which can mean, I wish I would have known this, I would have given you the statistics for sure, but it's a surprisingly high amount, and a single individual can make up to $12,000, I think, and then basically it multiplies as the members of the household go up. So if you have four, you can make somewhere about $36,000 in your house.
And certainly if you're wondering,
yes.
ask.
Sure, absolutely. We're more than happy to answer any questions you might have if someone were to call us.
I was just seeing where I believe WIC has now changed their eligibility. So a lot of people that weren't eligible for WIC are now eligible to get that. And it's so important that services like yours, people that are eligible for it, that need those services, know it's there and that they're eligible.
Yes, I certainly wouldn't want someone not to investigate whether or not we can provide the services. We do try to really narrow our focus to those who would have no access without us. So it means I don't take Medicaid patients. You have to be uninsured and you need to be in that low income bracket. Just because the need is so great, I can't expand it beyond that. Because we just don't have the resources to fund a clinic that large.
We're here for the most in need. And,
yes.
And Lindy, a lot of times that means people that are coming out of the Calhoun County Jail who have basically no resources.
Right, and that's one thing too, just want to get that information out there, is that, people that are incarcerated and that are on medication while incarcerated, and then once they get released may not have the financial means to maintain and remain on their medication, and in that way the medical facility also provides assistance in that manner as well.
So what are you seeing, Nanette, in the community, other than people coming from the county jail? What are some of the other circumstances that put people in this situation?
Well, obviously the working poor. We take care of a lot of people who maybe are janitors or clean in these local hotels. We take care of waitresses, many people who work in the hospitality industry. Those people who are the working poor who may not have insurance through their job, and maybe they take care of a family member who's sick, or we take care of very vulnerable populations, including the homeless, those people who are coming out of addiction, who we take care of a lot of patients who are uninsured, who are in rehabs. And so these are populations that really absolutely need access to health care because they can't afford their medications. So we know that if we treat them early, we minimize the progression of their diseases, and which helps the ER and our local hospital system. It really becomes impactful to the whole community when we take care of the most vulnerable.
Everybody benefits.
Everybody benefits.
And if we don't do it, everybody suffers.
Yes.
So what's if somebody right now is watching and they think, well, I don't have resources and I've got something that I need to have checked on or need some help with, what do they do? What's the process?
Well, the clinic is open Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We're a first come, first served clinic. So it means we don't take appointments. A lot of our population really has transportation challenges and maybe childcare challenges, and just keeping an appointment is difficult. So we just recognize if you can be here today, we can take care of you. So we average about 25 patients a day. We take the first sign in at 8 a.m. and we go till we can't go anymore that day. So those days are consistent every week. It's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday from 8 to 4. We usually serve about 25 patients. We require some documentation. We like to have a driver's license if possible, or some form of ID. A lot of times if they've just been released from jail, we'll take the jail card, but we'll also help them to get resources to connect, to get a valid ID for the future, because you need an ID.
Right.
So that's another thing that we really offer, is the connection to other resources in our community that can assist. We actually don't provide direct medication assistance. We do on a limited basis, but we know how the community can support patients. So we know what Publix does on their free medication list. We know what Interfaith can do. Ministries, as some of you might be aware of that, they have a prescription assistance program. So we work with all of these community agencies to really connect patients to resources. So back to qualification, I'm sorry. You need an ID and you need a proof of income. A lot of people say, well, I don't have any income. I'm not working, or maybe I mow yards and I get paid, just a cash income. Or so we have ways to assist them in identifying something that will qualify, because I do get some grants, and I do need to hold patients accountable to being the population that we intend to serve. So we can help them with that as well.
And of course, I'm sure that you've had some unusual challenges here this year that, like we all have. I want to talk about that and how that's impacting things, and find out some more about the clinic. We need to take a quick break. We will be back. We'll have the second half of this week's lineup as well on Calhoun County's Most Wanted. All right, here we have the second half of this week's lineup on Calhoun County's Most Wanted. Christopher Kiker of Glencoe is wanted for failure to pay for possession of a controlled substance. Larry Hunter of Parrish is wanted on a failure to appear warrant for theft of property, first degree. Brittany Walton of Talladega wanted on a probation violation for theft of property, third degree. Crystal Nichols of Leeds is wanted on a failure to appear warrant for obstruction of justice using a false ID and use and possession of drug paraphernalia. Timothy Thompson of Bessemer wanted on a failure to appear warrant for possession of marijuana, second degree, and use and possession of drug paraphernalia. Dustin Studdard of Talladega wanted on 2 counts of violating a domestic violence protection order. If you can help us find any of these individuals, please call Calhoun County Crime Stoppers at 256-238-1414. We want your information, not your name. All right, we'll talk about some property crimes coming up in just a few minutes. Hopefully you can help us with some of those. We already mentioned a few of those at the beginning of the program, but we'll give you some more details on those, and hopefully we can get some information back from you to help solve some of those crimes. But right now we're trying to solve some different problems in the community. Nanette is with us from the St. Michael's Health Clinic in Anniston. Where exactly is the clinic?
It's 1005 West 18th Street. So most of us know where we get our license and registration for our car. That's 17th. If you go down to 18th and go, I guess, west from Noble Street, it's about 10 blocks down. It's across from the historic St. Michael's Episcopal Church, which is our
beautiful church.
Yes, the most beautiful church, in my opinion, in our county, and the founding of the clinic.
And a church that, where the church is located was no accident. That church was put there to be where people needed it.
Yes, it's true. It's true. And we have carried on this tradition as their investment into the community to make it a better place, honestly, and to provide something that they knew people needed, which is access to health care.
Well, let's talk about the current pandemic.
Okay.
Have you seen actual COVID patients at the clinic?
We have seen a few. Yeah, definitely. I don't want to scare people, but certainly we have it's funny. We've been taking precautions as everyone does. Most clinics are screening patients outdoors and then just letting them in one at a time, and that's what we are doing. We have PPE. We are able to protect ourselves, and so we're taking those precautions. And so if we get someone who looks a little hot and maybe looks like they may have symptoms, we do some screening outside, and then we send them to get tested. And we have found some positive cases, and we've also been serving the community through a COVID care program, which we've had community support from, particularly from the Community Foundation. We are able to do some telehealth with our patients that we find that are positive by providing them with a daily call from either a nurse practitioner, a registered nurse, or a physician assistant, and we're giving them support through the phone to just say, here are the symptoms you need to monitor. How's your temperature? How's your oxygen? How's your breathing? And as we monitor them, also finding what they need to help support them in quarantine. Because if you're struggling with poverty and now you've got to stay home for 2 weeks, do you have groceries? Do you have what you need? So we're able to connect them to churches who are assisting them, and also to programs that might support maybe their utility bill or whatever their needs are. So we've been really pleased to be able to offer that program.
So essential that everyone has access to being able to be tested if they need to be.
Yes.
The last thing we need is the people who have the hardest time getting health care to be spreading with all of their connections that are in similar situations.
Yes.
We've got to make sure that they're
So we've received some calls, quite a number from the community, of people who don't have insurance and have wanted to be tested but didn't know where. So we were able to direct them, and if they needed to also give them a referral. Now, most places now, the health department and also RMC don't need a doctor's referral. They need you to call and make an appointment, but they're trying to provide that testing to as many people. But if you have questions about getting tested, have signs and symptoms, and particularly if you fall into this low-income uninsured population, we really want to assist you.
You mentioned grants a little while ago, and certainly some grants have helped you be able to do what you do, but
yes.
You rely on more than that, don't you?
Absolutely. We rely on not only grants, but really the volunteer staff. We are primarily a volunteer staff, which I think when we calculate the number of hours donated to us in an annual year, it's about 9,000 hours, which is more than $1 million worth of volunteer time, from medical staff all the way down to, I have retired teachers who help me. Now, we've had to be careful with volunteers at this time. If they fall into a vulnerable risk category, we don't want to add risk to our volunteers.
Right.
So we kind of shooed some of them off, but we're allowing some of them to come back now if they feel comfortable with our precautions. But volunteers are huge for us. And also, of course, donations. We also, we need all the donations that we can to provide our services.
Lindy,
they're put to good use, I promise.
And that's how do you go about volunteering or donating?
You can check out our website, website. Our website is STM, as in St. Michael's, stmclinic.org. It has our contact information as well as a donate button, which is easy. You can break out your credit card and donate there. You can do it a one-time or a monthly, and we'd be happy to receive your donation and send you as sweet as thank you card as we can write for it.
Thank you very much for what you're doing, for taking the time to come here and share the message, because people need to know you're there and that the services are there,
well,
and that the
thank
volunteers
you.
are there.
I thank you for helping us get the word out.
All right. We will take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about some unsolved crimes that we need your help solving so that we can prevent others. When we come back on Calhoun County's Most Wanted. All right, let's see if you can help us solve some recent property crimes. On June 9th, 3 rifles were reported stolen from a residence on Cecile Drive in Oxford. Between June 13th and 14th, 13 reports were filed for breaking and entering automobiles in the Alexandria community. A large amount of currency, Costa sunglasses, 2 firearms, a wallet, and miscellaneous items were stolen. A total of 18 cars were illegally entered. All were unlocked. Between April 12th and April 28th, a blue and gray 2008 Ford Crown Victoria was stolen from a location on Story Drive in Anniston. On June 16th, a report was filed for breaking and entering 2 vehicles on Mud Street in Lincoln. A firearm was stolen. The vehicles were unlocked. If you have information about any of these crimes or others in Calhoun County, please contact Crime Stoppers at 256-238-1414.
Stupid! You're so stupid!
All right, so Lindy, if you're a burglar, what's worse than leaving your keys at the scene of the crime?
I would say leaving my ID
That
or my cell phone.
Well, what I was going with is going back to get your keys.
Oh, okay. Well, you need to get away.
Our crazy criminal this week, he managed to leave the scene of the crime with his ill-gotten gains, and so he takes this back home and then realizes, I can't get into my home because
well,
I
got to break into my own home.
Yeah, so
Kind of karma right there.
probably should have broken into his own home, but instead he went back to the scene of the crime to go look for his keys. And by that time, the victim had figured out what was going on and was there to greet him. And
We always love to when you leave some type of identification on your key ring, like a membership card or something like that. That's great help as well.
All right, so we appreciate the effort there to make things easier for the police and the homeowner. That's all the time that we have for this week. We'll be looking for you again next week, but hopefully not in the lineup on Calhoun County's Most Wanted.